Okay, I'm sorry, I've got a bit of a kiffle this evening. I understand it's a cough, is it?
Yes.
It's a bit annoying. I hope it doesn't come through. The actual title of this talk, it's got a subtitle. It's got a subtitle which is The Birthday Suit, How Styles Have Changed. Okay. I was doing some Christmas shopping, as you do, in Hastings, and it was a dull afternoon, and I suddenly had this, seized by this monochrome effect. People seem to be wearing all sorts of different shades of grey, black, navy blue, beige, and I thought, oh dear, how dull. Why do we, I wonder, try to make ourselves look as inconspicuous as possible? But then there was a flash of brilliance. A young lady came by, dressed in a very colourful frock. She had a cardigan on, it was cold afternoon, and her coloured hair. And I thought, amazing flash of brilliance on a dull winter's afternoon among all the dull colours. As you probably noticed, I try to wear bright and bold colours. If I have to wear clothes at all, the point is, I don't really like wearing clothes. I'm much happier and more comfortable not wearing any clothes at all. And I only wear clothes because otherwise it's socially unacceptable, really, in most public situations. Slide came up. Okay, good. Well, this talk is about naturism. And I'm going to start by asking you a few questions, which you needn't feel obliged to respond to, but you can do by putting your hands up. So it's like a school classroom. But if you are going to put your hand up, please be honest about it. Can I ask, please, who among you feels comfortable being naked? Now, you know, I'm assuming that you feel comfortable in the shower, and I'm assuming you feel reasonably comfortable when you're having sex. But who feels comfortable at other times being naked? Good? Fine. That's great. Now, can I ask a second question, which is, who has sort of gone public with that by lying out on some nudist beach abroad? A few more people. And the third question is, who has done so in the UK? Oh, okay, reasonable number, that's great. Okay. Now, is there a difference between naturism and nudism? Well, I don't really think so, and the Oxford English Dictionary does give nudism as a synonym of naturism. So, if the Oxford English Dictionary says so, it must be okay. Now, I prefer the term nudism because I think it tells it like it is. Naturism is a rather twee term which almost seeks to disguise what it's about. It's about going naked or going nude. Indeed, the word naturist can be confused with the word naturalist. Now, I remember once reading about an event that David Attenborough was about to speak at, and he was described as that well-known naturist. Well, naturist he may or may not have been, but I have a feeling, I would hazard a guess, that his fame is more to do with his skill as a naturalist than as a naturist. And, you know, unless you're very specific, you can't really ask someone to accompany you to a naturist event without the risk of them turning up with binoculars, hand lenses, botanical volumes, and of course far too many clothes, so you have to be specific about that. My passion is, of course, to be naked as often as I possibly can be, But although I may save a small fortune on the washing machine, or dry cleaning bills, or clothing retail stores make a pitiful profit actually from my custom. It's not always been the case. If I go right back to my secondary school, it was a boys' secondary school, and after PE lessons it was communal showers. And all the other boys seemed to undress happily and walk noisily through the showers, but I was mortified at the prospect of doing that. Absolutely mortified. And I loathed PE, but I was willing that lesson to go on as long as possible so there would never be time for showers before the next class. And luckily for me, most of the time, that was the case. So, however, from my time as an adult, from about mid-20s onwards, I was always looking for an opportunity to strip off on some of the quieter beaches on family summer holidays. So I must have had some sort of road to Damascus moment. And then, from then on, it was difficult to maybe put clothes on again. Clothes, why do we wear them? Well, we've actually only been doing so for about 70,000 years. We're the only mammals to do so, and presumably it all started when we got a bit chilled. Although Charles Darwin recalled seeing natives huddling together in the cold when he sailed past Tierra del Fuego in the mid-19th century. But clothes stuck, and now when it is perfectly warm enough to do without them, they do literally stick, for we still have a layer to maintain what's called decency. Sorry, I can only do half a quote now. I'm holding the microphone in there. Furthermore, we can be and are judged by the style of clothing we adopt. Although it is well known that the ancient Greeks competed nude in athletic competitions, at least the men did, not necessarily the women, and various religious sects have promoted nakedness in their rejection of all worldly attachments, social nudism as a leisure pursuit only really took hold in the 1920s, and especially in Germany. Now, the popularity of it soon spread to Britain, where sun clubs, or so-called sun clubs, began to grow up. Sun club really is a euphemism because, of course, in Britain, it's nearly always raining. Of course, in Hitler's Germany, when he came to power in the 30s, nudism was very severely restricted, and Hermann Goering proclaimed one of the greatest dangers for German culture and morality is the so-called nudity movement. But what are the benefits of nudism? Well, there are health benefits, both physical and mental. The NHS website, although it doesn't espouse nudity, unsurprisingly, does expand at some length about the creation of vitamin D from the action of sunlight on the skin. And, of course, while still warning about the dangers of too much exposure. On the mental side, well, I always feel a lot calmer, in a much calmer frame of mind when not encumbered by clothes. Stress levels, too, can be much reduced. Naturists tend to be very friendly, tolerant, accepting, non-confrontational people. And it is quite true that stripped of clothes, there is a certain non-judgmental unity among like-minded people. You are not judged on characteristics that might be inferred from your style of clothing. Everyone is as bare as they were on the day they were born. Of course, you can still be judged on your personality, but at least there are fewer preconceptions. Naturism promotes a feeling of freedom and well-being. Think of swimming in the sea without costumes. Think about those costumes, if you're wearing them, they're soaked through. And then they have to be removed with the greatest difficulty under a tangled tent of toweling, as you contort yourself every which way to avoid drawing attention to yourself. Nothing is more guaranteed to draw attention to yourself than that. And when bathing costumes were woolen, well, it doesn't bear thinking about. Personally, I'm not one very much for sun clubs or for roasting on beaches. My tolerance level for that sort of thing is well under an hour. So I became interested in nude walking, a kind of free-range nudism, away from the official or unofficial clubs and beaches. I began to experience the great British countryside in my birthday suit. Well, what pitfalls are there in walking nude? It has been pointed out that other people's tolerance is contextual. Thus, a group of naked walkers on a hot day seems somehow okay. Indeed, tolerance increases proportionately with temperature. So you're really legitimate when the temperature reaches the mid-90s. It was with a wry smile while researching material for this talk that I came across a small book I bought back in the 80s, which detailed various routes for walking in the Peak District, and which had on its final page some instructions about what equipment and clothing to take on hikes in that region, under the title, Equipment Notes, Some Personal Thoughts. The author went into minute detail on boots, socks, waterproofs, though he did admit that you generated heat as you went, and that you could get, quote, hot and clammy. Now, I would never recommend, of course, going out on a winter walk in the hills ill-equipped, but this author took little account of the seasons and the fact that it can sometimes be actually quite hot, when there is no need for any clothing whatsoever, except for something in your now much lighter rucksack for an emergency cover-up. And how thrilling to be up there in the hills without a stitch on a warm summer's day, feeling part of the nature all around you. Okay, back to reality. I am a member of a nude walking group called Naturist Ramblers, which organises long all-day walks in the south of England, and also organiser of a group doing shorter walks in Kent and Sussex called, think about it, Stark Trekkers. Walks are organised in such a way that they avoid walking hotspots and well-known dog exercising areas. An urgent question, of course, you're now going to have is, what do you do if you come across a textile? Now, a textile is a name given to a non-naturist. And what happens is the person at the head of the queue makes a sign like that, turns around, makes a sign like that, to indicate there is a textile approaching. We then cover up. If, however, we stumble upon a group of people, for example, turning a corner of some woodland path, we simply keep going with a friendly greeting, since there is nothing more ridiculous than trying desperately to scramble into shorts when you've been well and truly spotted. So, when we are spotted, what are the people's reactions? Well, they range from, at the top end, admiration at our bravery. Well, that might be bravery in the weather conditions. It might be bravery in terms of running the gauntlet of public disapproval. One couple actually greeted us most good-humouredly with the observation, "Well, you aren't on a church outing today, are you?" With which we hardly concurred, of course. Through embarrassment, this often embarrassment, "Goodness me, aren't you cold like that?" which was addressed to a small group of us who had toiled up a hill on the hottest day of the year so far, so we certainly weren't cold, and indifference, passing by in a confused silence, to the really very, very few people who actually take exception to the nudity they've witnessed. Both ends of that particular spectrum were noticed on one especially warm day when walking in Ashdown Forest. We came upon a lady dog walker as we emerged from a woodland path, who wanted to take a photo of the 30 of us because otherwise her husband would not believe her. While by contrast, another one who had glimpsed us at a distance earlier in the day wrote on her local Facebook page about the disgraceful sight she had witnessed. No doubt expecting all her Facebook friends to agree with her, she would have been nonplussed by the fact that most of the responses were positive, suggesting that what a good idea it was on such a hot day. But you're also going to ask about the law. Is it possible to fall foul of it? Yes, it is, but perhaps not so easily as you might think. Nakedness per se, in public, is not illegal in this country. And that is something that a lot of people are not aware of. Of course, you're going to say, well, in lots of countries it is illegal, and you're quite right. And that includes liberal, broad-minded France, of all places. So what else can the free-range naturist do today? Well, there are various outlets which do suggest that body taboos are starting to break down. For example, you can go on a naked bike ride. These are held in London and Brighton, and I believe there was once one in Hastings, and many other UK towns and abroad, one day each year, and the reaction of the public is almost invariably positive. They line the streets, they take photos, they cheer you on. I remember one curious incident, though, when I was doing a naked bike ride. One woman was very busy with her mobile phone in one hand, videoing us as we passed, while with the other hand, shielding the eyes of her child by her side. Some art galleries in London hold clothes-optional previews of forthcoming exhibitions from time to time. The Great British Skinny Dip, in which large numbers of nudists may swim naked in the sea or elsewhere, has attracted fair publicity in recent years. There is an annual Naked Gardening Day, while a small number of show gardens open their gates to naturists on certain dates when otherwise closed to the public. Now, the overarching organisation for British nudists, called British Naturism, is in the forefront of organising such events. And that includes, for example, an annual winter weekend at Alton Towers, and is starting to see that there is naked life to be had beyond the walls of the Sun Club. And talking of naked gardening, what is there to stop you enjoying the freedom of being naked simply in and around your own home? Try decorating. Cooking, watch the hot greasy splashes there. Doing the washing up in the bath, all household chores that become lighter and less tiresome if done naked. And afterwards relax by sunbathing in the nude in your garden with a glass of white wine, where you are not too obviously overlooked by neighbours. So, in conclusion, let's not be shy about our bodies. They are what we were born with, and they are arguably our greatest asset. Let's not hide them away under layers of clothing when it is really not necessary. Taking off our clothing can be like peeling off layers of stress and tension. Let's make the most of it. It's part of making the most of our short lives. Join a nude walking group. You'll certainly have an opportunity to sample British rain. There we are. Or attend the regular Eastbourne Naturist swimming club. We are assailed constantly by idealistic body images, and it is no wonder that our inclination is to hide our bodies from public gaze and therefore from public judgment. But in fact, beauty as a concept is, I think, much broader than the narrow, conventional, unattainable images that are sold to us. So let's not be involved in the greatest cover-up of them all. After all, when done in the nude, such a mundane job as hoovering the house becomes in more ways than one bearable. Thank you for listening.
Brilliant, thank you so much, Keith. That was, that's a brilliant revelation, and I have, in homage, I've removed one of my textiles to bring this evening to conclusion. I do run barefoot, actually. That's as far as I have gone publicly. But anyway, questions for Keith. I thought that was a wonderful exposition of something that, well, for me, myself, I know very little about, so I was intrigued and enthralled by that. Anybody got any burning questions, or you want to take your clothes off or something? But yes, Chris.
Yes, perhaps I'm very impressed with your determination. What difficulties have you personally got into as a result of your naturist activities?
Well, yes, actually nothing as yet. Although I have to admit there is the potential for that to happen. Even people who object strongly do not usually make a complaint to the police. And if the police do receive a complaint, they have to follow it up. But it's more than likely that they will simply ask you to get dressed and carry on with whatever else they've got to do. Very rarely do these cases get taken any further. And although the law is a grey area, as it often is, a complainant has to prove that they were alarmed, harassed or distressed by the sight of your nudity. So it's not, in fact, easy to bring a prosecution against a naturist. But I do agree, if we're walking naked in the countryside, there is, I won't deny it, there is some potential for getting into trouble.
Wasn't there the infamous or famous naked rambler?
The naked rambler was someone ahead of his time, I always feel. He was certainly pushing the boundaries, shall we say, and he did get into trouble. We tend to walk in as unpopulated areas as we can possibly find. He tended to walk everywhere and anywhere in the nude.
Excellent. Right, thank you. Yes, questions? Over here, yeah.
What does your ideal naked world look like?
I think I would love a situation to develop where nakedness was seen as an alternative form of dress. In other words, that people who liked being naked could be naked whenever and wherever they were. That would be an ideal situation. That is, as present matters go, unattainable. But that is an ideal to which I would like to... It won't happen in my lifetime.
We've got Chris in his mimetic engineering, so that may not be unattainable. Just a question over here.
Yes, I was wondering if sexual attraction ever causes embarrassment during any of these adventures.
It's a question that I thought might come up. On the whole, no, it's not usually a problem. In fact, naturists will not mention the S word at all. You know what I mean by the S word. It's taboo, you just don't talk about it, at least not publicly. No, that is not really very much of a problem, I have to say, among naturists.
I think I saw a hand down here. Did I see a hand? Yes?
Yeah. Sorry, I don't remember your name.
Oh, Keith.
Keith. So Keith, what do you think the difference is then between someone that dresses and a naturist? How does someone that dresses become a naturist? What's the difference in thinking then? So why is your thinking about being naked different to somebody that enjoys wearing clothes? Interested in.
I'm not really quite following what you're trying to get at there, really. I mean, I do feel that people who want to be unclothed should be allowed to do so, and that people who want to continue to wear clothes also should be allowed to do so.
I'm just thinking more about the psyche then. So is it about comfort? Is it about style? Is it mean that is it a social norm? What is it that's about us as a culture that wants to be dressed, and that part of us as a culture feel comfortable without being dressed? Does it feel like you fit in being naked and that we fit in wearing clothes? I'm just trying to
I think
about that.
people who want to be naked feel that they don't fit into society at large because the large majority of people are clothed most of the time. That I would say. Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add to that.
No, well, that's fine. Any other questions before I bring the evening to a close? Yes, there's a question.
I wanted to know, surely when you go out in your nudity, you must be wearing some kind of insect repellent. I can't believe that nobody else asked that question.
Insect repellent, Keith. Are insects a problem?
No, they keep well away. No, well we do, yes. I mean, we put sun cream on, we put insect repellent on, but then you might do that in any case, even if you're clothed. You know, if you're going out into the woods in the evening, it's a summer evening, you're wearing shorts, you put insect repellent on. Yeah, I mean, we do, we do take care of our health and bodies in that respect, yes, we do.
Brilliant. One final question, if there is one, otherwise I'm going to try and look for hands. If there's a final question, there is a final... Yeah, look, straight in front of me. Yeah, there we go. Last question.
Interesting about having the right to wear or not wear what you want. At the moment, we have kind of fascism against people who want to wear the burqa or women who actually want to wear the scarf. Do you give the right for women of their choice to wear the scarf, the burqa, not to be attacked or stripped of the burqa or the scarf?
No, I mean, everyone
because
should...
sometimes it's going the opposite way. No.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I think everybody should be wearing or not wearing whatever they want.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well that's enough questions. I'm going to draw the evening to a close. Can we thank Keith? For a fabulous talk.